Nothing matters more than what matters today.
The future starts today.
You're listening to Today. I'm Xu Qingduo with Ben Liang. With today's business stories, here's Zhao Yang.
Well, thank you, Qingduo. Let's now check out some of the key events on the corporate front in China during the past week. Joining me on the line is Jeffrey Towson, Professor of Investment at Peking University Guanghua School of Management. Recently, a second Chinese company effectively defaulted on its debts. This follows less than a month after solar company Chaorui became the first Chinese company to default on onshore bond. This newest event is by Zhao Zhongsen, a construction material manufacturer, and they are reported to have missed an interest payment on Friday. So, Professor Towson, did this company actually really default? There are rumors that its guarantor is going to make the payment. Is that the case?
That appears to be what's going on. This came out last week, sort of the end of the week, and the company, which is Zhao Zhongsen, is a small company in Jiangsu that does construction materials. They basically missed a bond payment of about $2.9 million.
And the CSRC, China Securities Regulator, has said that this case will be handled by the market rules. So basically, they are not going to intervene, and the market participants will have to sort this out. So why didn't they intervene? Because is that because this company, Zhongsen, won't pose larger risks to the system?
I think there's no risk of either this spilling out into a wider problem in banking or causing sort of, making a lot of people angry. It's not like there's thousands of people who've invested and are sort of going to get angry. And it's also this idea, I think, so it's sort of a selective non-intervention, selective intervention, which is what's been going on. And it has a lot to do, I think, with the fact that, there's sort of a lesson being learned here. When you make these investments, whether it's in a bond or a guarantor or whatever, don't have this idea that the government's going to bail you out. I mean, you should look at the credit risk of what you're loaning money to. So there's a little bit of a relearning after the past several years where, pretty much anything invested in, there was this idea that the government would protect it. Well, they're gently reminding people, no, that's not always going to be the case. You better look at this. So they were clear about that. They're not intervening on this one. It's a market rules solution.
But will there be any trend of companies defaulting here in China?
If you look at sort of non-performing loans, there's been a binge of lending over the last 3 years, and clearly within that big boom, there's some problem loans. How much it is unclear. Some people think it's hundreds of millions, some think people it's billions, some think it's low trillions. It's unclear. So yes, I mean, these things are going to have to work themselves out over years and years. And there is just sort of this selective process. As something comes due and someone misses a payment, is the government or some other entity going to jump in? Or are we going to let this one go? And I think it'll be a selective process. Well, this is the second one we've seen in a month. In both cases, the markets, in this case it's a private bond, and the solar company was a public bond. In both cases, people kind of shrugged it off. Okay, no problem. And that's kind of what you want to see.
And well, moving on, there is continuing good news out of Chang'an Ford about sales growth. They have announced 49% growth to 935,000 cars sold last year here in China, and continued expansion of their factories and manufacturing capabilities in China. So, Professor Towson, this appears to be turning into a so-called come late the market and win story. So Ford entered China many years after the GM and over a decade after Volkswagen, but they are showing strong growth year after year now. So does this disprove the idea that you have to get the market first?
Right. I really like this story. Ford is turning into this is the beginnings of a really nice story because they are disproving certain myths about doing business in China, one of which is you got to get there early, you got to get there first. They came quite late. I mean, they were a decade after Volkswagen, and they were a good, almost 8 or 9 years after General Motors. And they're kind of showing that, look, for some businesses, it's about getting there early. But for a lot of businesses, and I think automakers are in this bucket, it's a marathon. And it's consistently run, consistently design cars, make cars, sell cars over time. And they're sort of coming up the outside. And, they're up to 1 million cars sold in 2013. And they were at 300,000 or 400,000 just 3 years ago. Now, market leaders GM and Volkswagen are closer to 2.4 million. But it's turning into kind of this nice, impressive story where they're doing well. I keep an eye on them, but it's impressive.
And talking about Ford's success, is part of their success their partnership with Chang'an in Chongqing, and that is very different that GM and Volkswagen partnership with SAIC in Shanghai, and does being in a more inland market help?
Not only did they come sort of late and are doing well, they didn't they didn't partner up with a major company in Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. They went inland to Chongqing. That's their main partnership is with Chang'an. They have major facility in Chongqing. That's also sort of contrarian. They were deep inland. They weren't on these major waterways on the coast. I'm not totally sure if that's playing out in sales. I don't have good visibility on where they're actually selling cars. Maybe they're selling them in Beijing. But, that also sort of defies conventional wisdom that you need a major partner on the west, East Coast in a major city. They're doing quite well. And in contrast, they sort of split up with Mazda, who was their partner up until the end of 2012. Mazda has since set up in Nanjing since the split. Ford is in Chongqing, and Mazda's not doing well. In fact, they're shrinking.
And you mentioned Mazda has been, it has been in rapid decline here in China in the last year. So is this related to their split with Ford?
I put this in my mind of, sort of post-divorce. One person in the marriage often will do well and maybe one will not. And, one gets better, starts losing weight. It looks like Ford is sort of post-divorce, is taken off. They're looking good. They're doing well. Mazda looks like they're struggling. The sales, at least of some of their main auto products, have declined significantly in the last year, in contrast to the 50% growth we've seen with Ford. So, post-divorce, one side of the marriage is looking real good.
And final story, from the moment Facebook announced that it had bought the mobile messaging service WhatsApp, people keep talking about Facebook should worry about Tencent. So, Professor Towson, why should Facebook be worried about Tencent?
Right. I wrote a little article on this last week just for fun, and that little phrase, why Facebook should be worried about Tencent, sort of went viral. I got a bunch of little responses, which was interesting. And the argument is basically, okay, Facebook bought WhatsApp, which is a direct competitor to Tencent's Weixin, WeChat. Because these products, these IM messagings, you can have them on your phone anywhere in the world, and you can have them side by side. So, on my phone, I have WeChat right next to WhatsApp on my phone. So you basically got Facebook and Tencent competing head-to-head for the first time everywhere, China, U.S., South America, Europe. And my sort of take on this is, look, Facebook should be worried. I would be terrified to compete with Tencent. They're very aggressive. They're rolling this product out globally. They've launched an English version, WeChat. They're expanding into Europe right now. They're offering promotions into the U.S. In contrast, Facebook is, I don't see WhatsApp showing up in China or Asia. I'd be afraid of this. And maybe the first, if this is a fight, the first round, I think, goes to Tencent for the reason that they developed their product in-house and deployed it. Facebook, for whatever reason, didn't and had to make an expensive acquisition to bring this into-house.
Well,
so I give first round to Tencent.
Thank you, Jeffrey Towson, Professor of Investment at Peking University, Guanghua School of Management.